Green Valley University is located in a quiet suburb, surrounded by dense forests, and the atmosphere is comfortable and isolated. Sunlight shines through the heavy curtains into the classrooms, illuminating the old desks, and students are listening intently to the teacher's lecture. However, in this quiet institution of Green Valley University, there is an unknown shadow creeping quietly. Caitlin Hopkins, a junior at Green Valley University, is a lively, outgoing student who is often the pistachio of her class. On the surface, her life seems peaceful, but Caitlin has a secret. She has an undisclosed teacher-student relationship with Alex Hale, a physics professor. The two gradually began a taboo relationship. During a chance encounter at the library a year ago, Caitlin found long-lost comfort in this relationship, but she also knew that if the relationship was revealed, it would have unbearable consequences for her. Caitlin has always maintained a perturbed state of mind about this relationship, knowing that Alex Hale is not only her professor, but also a renowned scholar at Green Valley University. Many of her classmates are in awe of him, and she also realizes that if this relationship is exposed, her life will change. But Alex plays a crucial role in her life, and no matter how hard she tries to get rid of her inner anxiety, her inner secrets still keep her from being at peace, unbeknownst to Caitlin. However, Emily, her most trusted friend, was also in fact in a secret relationship with Alex Hale. Emily had been a student of Alex Hale, and although the two did not publicly admit it, she had a deep and intimate encounter with him under his academic guidance. That night, Emily was deeply attracted by Alex Hale's intelligence and charm, and something unspeakable eventually happened. The relationship left Emily deeply infatuated with Alex Hale, and although she knew the relationship was unlikely to be socially approved, she could never forget it. Emily has always believed that Alex Hale's disappearance is inextricably linked to certain secrets, and she has always suspected that Alex Hale did not disappear for no reason, but was involved in a more complex conspiracy. That morning, Caitlin walked into the physics classroom as usual and sat by the window. The scene outside the window was peaceful, with only a few pigeons wandering on the playground, sunlight shining through the window on the desk, and the air was filled with the characteristic moisture of autumn. She stretched and looked around, ready to start the day. However, just as she was about to pack her school bag, her eyes were unconsciously attracted to a corner of the window. In the distance of the playground stood an unfamiliar figure, wearing a worn black trench coat with his back to the sun, standing upright, as if waiting for something. Caitlin frowned, a trace of unease rising in her heart. She wanted to turn her head away and continue doing her own thing, but her eyes couldn't move. She saw the man turn slowly, and a face that was so pale that it was almost bloodless appeared, and the bottomless black eyes made her heart skip a beat. Caitlin's body shuddered involuntarily, and her heart beat violently. She quickly withdrew her gaze, trying to put aside the ominous feeling, but the fear in her heart could not be escaped. After class, she rushed to her friend Emily and told her about the stranger she had seen. The two decided to go to the playground together to check, but by the time they arrived, the man was long gone. All that was left was a sudden, cold wind that sent a chill down the back of Caitlin's neck. Emily was Caitlin's most trusted friend. She had always known about Caitlin's relationship with Alex Hale, but she did not say much about it. She only advised Caitlin to be careful. Caitlin shook her head, still uneasy. I don't know, but something is wrong with that man. For the next few days, Caitlin's life seemed to be shrouded in a shadow. Every time she walked into the classroom, she would automatically look out the window towards the playground. Sure enough, the man appeared again. This time, he stood on the boulevard outside the classroom, with his back to her, still wearing the tattered trench coat. But she forced herself to calm down and went to the school to explain. The school's response surprised her. There was no record of strangers entering the school, and not even the security guards had seen any suspicious people. As time went on, the man got closer and closer to her. He began to appear outside the classroom during class, and even suddenly behind Caitlin the moment she walked out of the classroom. Caitlin felt more and more as if she was being fixed on by some kind of gaze. Unable to escape, Caitlin's heart beat faster, but suddenly her phone screen lit up. It was a short message from Emily. "Caitlin, don't go near that man again." Caitlin's mind was in a state of confusion. Emily knew what she was going through, and her sudden reminder made Caitlin uneasy. She quickly called Emily, who was on the other end of the phone with a low voice. "Caitlin, I know you're upset, but I have to tell you something. That man can't be an ordinary person." Alex Hale had mentioned before his disappearance that he had discovered something he shouldn't have known, and the principal seemed to have something to do with it. You may have been in a situation beyond our control." Caitlin's mind was in chaos. She immediately decided to go to the school archives to investigate more information, trying to find clues related to the disappearance of Alex Hale. She went through the school history, records and archives for the last 3 years, and finally found detailed information about the disappearance of Alex Hale in a report. According to the report, Alex Hale was last seen on campus a week ago in the physics lab. He had left the school, looking very nervous, and told colleagues that he had discovered some secrets from the school's management. Caitlin felt a chill rise over her back as she read the report. Alex Hale's final discovery may have something to do with the principal's dark dealings. The shabby trench coat, the mysterious man who returned to campus with an unfinished task to retrieve those in the know. Caitlin was suddenly reminded of the background of Alex Hale's disappearance. He was the only person who knew the principal's secrets, which involved years of money, transfers, and even the risk of suspected illegal transactions. Did something happen to Alex Hale as a result? If he did know something he shouldn't have, did the reason for his disappearance have anything to do with those secrets? Caitlin grew increasingly uneasy and suddenly realized that the stranger standing on the playground, perhaps the ghost of Alex Hale, had returned to campus with unresolved hatred and an unfinished mission. Late at night, Caitlin took Emily to the laboratory where Alex Hale often went when he disappeared. It was still empty and filled with a dead atmosphere. Caitlin found Alex Hale's notebook in the corner of the laboratory, and there was an unfinished text written in it. "If something happens to me, the principal must know ... This sentence suddenly broke Caitlin's peace of mind, and she suddenly realized that there was a more complicated conspiracy hidden behind Alex Hale's disappearance. Just then, however, Caitlin felt a deep laugh behind her. She turned abruptly and saw the man in the shabby windbreaker. This time, she realized that the man in the shabby windbreaker was not just looking for her, but warning her. The man whispered, "You will be the next target." Caitlin's heart almost stopped beating, and she suddenly realized that she had already been caught in a conspiracy that she could not escape. Behind all this, Emily, whom she had always regarded as a friend, was the driving force behind all this. Emily and Alex Hale were far more than friends, but they were involved in the operation to uncover the dark secrets of the principal. They were involved in this dangerous game together, and Emily's purpose was not to help Caitlin, but to guide her step by step towards the end of it all. Emily's real purpose turned out to be to use Caitlin as bait to complete her own plan, revenge. Her deep-seated emotions and hatred were not towards Alex Hale, but towards the headmaster. Emily had learned of the corruption involved in the headmaster by chance, and Alex Hale was the only one who knew all about it. Emily approached Alex Hale through Caitlin to lure him into uncovering the headmaster's dark secret, but she had no intention of letting Caitlin get away. Emily's revenge plan had already begun, and Caitlin was part of her revenge. Caitlin's heart was beating violently, and she finally realized that she had been deeply involved in a trap with an unpredictable ending, and this conspiracy had just begun. Emily, a 26-year-old recent graduate of an upscale college, works in an advertising agency for a low salary and is living in poverty. To save money, she found a relatively inexpensive shared apartment in downtown New York in an old building in disrepair. The apartment is located in Brooklyn, on the edge of a former industrial area, surrounded by high-rises and old neighborhoods. The exterior walls of the building are mottled and peeling, and the window frames are covered with moss, as if to reveal an old decay. The day she moved into the apartment was a dreary October afternoon, and the weather made the whole building seem even more gloomy. The hallways were dark and the air was dull, as if the sun had never shone in. Emily dragged her heavy luggage up to the 4th floor, and the sound of her footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. A faded for rent sign hung on the door of the apartment, a reminder that this was not an active place. After the door opened, she was greeted by a middle-aged man in his 50s. Mark. He was tall, with a cold face and unshaven stubble, with a little confusion and indifference in his eyes. His eyes were always wandering, as if he did not want to have too much contact with people. "Welcome. The conditions here are simple. You can get used to it." His tone was flat, but there was an inaccessible coldness. There was an inexplicable uneasiness in Emily's heart. She knew that this place was not her ideal home, but it was her only option. In addition to the simple furniture in the room, there were some mildew marks on the walls. Thick dust accumulated on the window frames, and a musty smell filled the air. Another roommate, Sophia, appeared immediately. She looked about 26 years old, with a slender figure, wearing a long black dress, walking lightly and elegantly, but with a cold sense of distance. When she saw Emily, her eyes flashed, as if she was looking at her, but she quickly lowered her head, as if she saw nothing. "Are you new here?" "Welcome." Sophia's voice was cold and warm. Emily nodded, and the unease in her heart grew stronger. She felt as if she had entered a world that did not belong to her. Emily's life gradually became monotonous. Every day she went to work, went home, ate, and slept. Almost nothing changed. But the atmosphere of this apartment was increasingly oppressive to her, especially Mark and Sophia, who always behaved so strangely, as if they had an unspeakable secret. One night, when Emily was about to go back to her room after taking a shower, she suddenly found a few long gray-white hairs next to the bathroom drain. She was stunned for a moment, and an uneasy feeling quickly welled up in her heart. These hairs didn't belong to her. Could they have been left by someone else? She checked the rest of the bathroom, but didn't find anything suspicious. She didn't dare to think about it anymore, and silently cleaned off the strands of hair. But there was no peace in her heart. Over the next few days, similar things happened. One day, as she was getting ready to take a shower, she suddenly heard a deep whisper coming from the bathroom, as if someone was talking quietly. She could almost hear ringing in her ears, but every time she pushed open the bathroom door, there was no one inside. Until one day, she walked into the bathroom again and suddenly saw her reflection in the mirror, her eyes indifferent, like another person. In the mirror, she smiled slightly, the corners of her mouth raised, but there was no expression. At that moment, Emily's heart almost jumped out of her chest, and the air became stagnant, as if the whole world was against her. Emily was increasingly unable to ignore these strange phenomena. She began to feel an inexplicable sense of oppression that was approaching her every moment. One morning, when she went into the kitchen to prepare breakfast, she found a broken egg in the refrigerator. The yolk had flowed out, and the sticky liquid overflowed the refrigerator. Emily frowned subconsciously. This situation is not normal. She took the egg out of the fridge and found nothing else suspicious. Her unease grew, and she decided to ask Mark and Sophia if anything strange had happened. When she walked up to Mark, he simply said, "I don't know. Maybe you made a mistake. The refrigerator is not clean." There was a doubt in Emily's heart. She turned to look for Sophia and saw that she was sitting at the table, quietly looking at an ancient book. The edges of the pages were yellowed, and the writing was blurred, giving people a sense of age. "Did you notice the egg yolks in the fridge?" Emily couldn't help but ask. Sophia looked up, looked at her coldly, and raised the corner of her mouth slightly. "You saw it? It's no big deal." Her tone was flat, but with an indescribable sense of threat. Emily was shocked, and she suddenly understood that Sophia's indifference when she spoke seemed not to be because she didn't care, but because she already knew the truth behind it. That night, Emily had another disturbing dream. In the dream, she saw herself standing in the hallway of the apartment, where the dim lights couldn't illuminate the road ahead. There seemed to be a whisper behind every door, and Emily couldn't hear it clearly. But the sound grew clearer and gradually became like a spell. She pushed open the door and entered a shabby bathroom. In the mirror, her reflection looked at her, her eyes empty, the corners of her mouth raised involuntarily, revealing an unfamiliar smile. She felt nausea and wanted to flee, but suddenly, she reached out in the mirror, grabbed her neck, and pulled her body hard. Emily woke up suddenly, her heart almost beating out of her chest. She was soaking wet, and there was a faint wind outside the window, but she knew it wasn't the sound of the wind, but some deeper fear was approaching her. In her spare time, Emily began to rummage through the history of the apartment and investigate the people who once lived there. Through word of mouth from neighbors, she gradually discovered a fact that creeped her out. The apartment used to be a gathering place for a cult. Almost everyone who lives here participates in some kind of mysterious ritual, which is closely related to the sacrifice ceremony of ancient gods. Mark and Sophia are obviously members of this organization. Every new tenant would be included in the cult's plan and become a victim of the ritual. The hair in the bathroom, the egg yolk in the refrigerator, and even the vision she saw in the mirror were all symbols of the sacrificial ceremony. Emily's body began to tremble unconsciously, and she finally realized that she had known where Anne was becoming the next sacrifice. That night, Emily made a decision. She stopped hiding and decided to escape from this cursed place. She secretly packed her things and prepared to find an opportunity to call the police. However, she found that Mark and Sophia seemed to have sensed her movements long ago, and they began to appear around her frequently, even monitoring her every move consciously or unconsciously. That night, Emily was dragged into the bathroom and saw blood-red writing on the wall. Sacrifice will never be free. A pile of shredded photos and clothing was piled in the corner, apparently left by previous tenants. Emily ran as fast as she could out of the apartment, stumbled down the street, and finally called the police for help. She managed to escape, but her mind could never erase the horror of the apartment. Emily escaped from the place, but she could never forget the apartment again. Unable to escape the invisible shadow, when the night was still, she always felt a pair of eyes staring at her in the dark, like a sleeping monster, waiting for the next ignorant tenant. She knew that the haunted house would never disappear, and its curse was always waiting for the next person who dared to step in.